Sarah Grace Patrick is a 17-year-old teenager who sadly lost her mother and stepfather on the same day due to a terrible attack in their own home. Sarah called emergency services after her little sister, who was only 5 years old, found the bodies. After the terrible loss, Sarah posted these videos and photos crying on social media, where she wrote, "This can't be real, on my way to my parents' funeral." Or this one that says, "I just want my mommy." Family, friends, and people online showed support for Sarah. She even started gaining hundreds of followers, mostly people who had also lost loved ones, not knowing that Sarah was allegedly the one responsible for taking her own parents' lives. Hi, I'm Pal, and in this video we're going to talk about the terrifying story of Sarah Grace Patrick. The case is still under investigation, so not all the details have been revealed yet, and for now, everything remains alleged. So all the information I'm going to share is what supposedly happened. I was going to wait a bit longer for more information to come out, but honestly, I haven't been able to stop thinking about this case for weeks, so I thought I'd share it with you all. I'm going to give you all the information available so far, and then we can do an update later. I hope you find the video informative, so let's get into the details. The events took place in a small town located in Carroll, Georgia, United States. A peaceful, close-knit Christian community where the Brock family lived. The family consisted of James, the father, Kristen, the mother, and their two daughters, 16-year-old Sarah and 5-year-old Jay. James is described as a kind, funny, and entertaining man. He always made everyone laugh and was generally very friendly and cheerful, even though he had a tough life. His father was not present in his life. His mother died when he was a teenager, as did two of his siblings. From a young age, he had to drop out of school to work, and he only had a sister. James got married very young, at 16, and had 3 children. I'm not sure how long that marriage lasted, but a few years later they separated, he met another woman, and had another child with her. The little boy was born in March 2013. Even so, James was always present in his children's lives, and he loved them with all his heart. In 2017, he met Kristen, and from their very first date, he knew she was special and that they had a lot in common. Let's talk about Kristen. Kristen's parents divorced when she was little, and both remarried and had more children, so Kristen grew up with several siblings and step-siblings. In 2007, Kristen married a man named Daniel Patrick, and in 2008, they had their first daughter, Sarah Grace, who was born on April 28, 2008. 4 years later, they had their second child, whom they named Donnie. Sadly, the relationship between Kristen and Daniel had a lot of ups and downs. They seemed like a happy family, but they had many other problems, and even though they got along, they knew that relationship wasn't going to work. It was clear that the best thing would be to separate. Although Daniel remained present in his children's lives, the separation had a big impact on the family, especially on Kristen, who began to struggle with drinking and substance abuse. When Kristen and James met, they clicked right away. And even though both had difficult pasts, being together helped them build a happy and healthy future. They both attended Alcoholics Anonymous meetings and started going to church. They said that turning to God saved their lives. In 2019, they had a beautiful baby girl whom they named Jayleanne, and in December 2023, they officially got married. Just when everything seemed to be getting better, James started having health problems. He suffered a cardiac arrest and was hospitalized. They implanted a defibrillator, which is a device that sends a current or electric shock to the heart to restore a normal heartbeat. Although it helped him a lot at first, later his body began to reject it, and he had to undergo several more surgeries, including a heart transplant. Due to health issues, James stopped working, and a few months later, Kristen also quit her job. She was a teacher for children with disabilities, to give her husband her full attention. Those were tough years, but by 2025, James was doing much better, and he always expressed his gratitude toward his wife. Even though they seemed to have a strong marriage, the health problems and financial stress started to cause a lot of issues between them, and it became normal for them to argue. The worst part was that they argued in front of the kids. One time, little Jaylee had to witness such a heated argument in which Kristen was physically attacking James that Kristen ended up getting arrested. James didn't press charges, but there was an issue regarding the custody of Jay and Sarah, because it wasn't a good family environment for them to be there. Sarah went to live with her father for a few months, but later Kristen regained custody. There are also rumors of infidelity, but nothing has been confirmed. And despite all that, the couple stayed together. They used to say that their problems only made them stronger. Okay, all of that was to give you an idea of the environment Sarah Grace grew up in. Now let's talk about Sarah. She's described as a sweet, kind, and generally good girl, although it was known that she's sometimes had heated arguments with her parents. Her mom said it was normal because she was going through adolescence, and even though it was frustrating, it was just a phase. But James went so far as to tell other people, "You don't know the real Sarah. She's not the sweet girl she pretends to be." Sarah had her first boyfriend at 15, a teenager named Jackson, who was not a good influence on her. He was a troubled kid who had even been arrested for possession of weapons as a minor. Sarah was really in love with him, but they didn't have a good relationship, and eventually Jackson broke up with her, which devastated her. But it was the best thing that could have happened to her, because after that, Sarah focused on her studies, raised her grades, and was about to graduate from high school, something very important for her family because she would be the first to do so. However, Sarah started dating another man, a man much older than her, and her family didn't approve of him. They forbade her from seeing him, but Sarah didn't listen. She would sneak out of the house to see him. Let's get to the facts. On February 20th, 2025, Jay, the youngest daughter, woke up after hearing strange noises coming from her parents' room. She later realized that those noises were actually the sound of a gun being fired. Then she heard the alarm from her father's implant. Jay was a little girl, only 5 years old. She didn't really understand what was happening, but she knew that alarm meant her dad's heart was failing. She ran to her parents' room, where at first she thought they were just sleeping. But as she got closer, she saw that they were actually lifeless and covered in blood, with gunshot wounds on their bodies. It's said that there were 5 shots, but this hasn't been confirmed by the authorities. Jay ran to her sister Sarah, who was sleeping in the room next door. Sarah, scared, called 911 and the authorities arrived immediately. The paramedics sadly declared that Kristen and James had lost their lives. The officers secured the area and began the investigation. When Kristen and James's families were given the news, they thought it was an overdose because both had a history with substances, but they were shocked to learn that it was actually a homicide. They couldn't understand who would be capable of committing such an atrocity, breaking into the house and taking the lives of parents while their children were present. The officers ruled out several initial theories. It wasn't a robbery because nothing was stolen. The person who shot them entered the house with only one purpose: to take their lives while they slept. The entrances weren't forced, so the person responsible for the act was someone who had access to the home. But inside the house, only their daughters were present. So who could have done it? The weapon used wasn't in the house, and the family didn't own any guns. So to recap, the officers were looking for a suspect who, first, was close enough to the family to be able to enter the house. Also, someone who knew the place well enough to know where the bedrooms were and could get in and out without being seen or heard. Second, someone who had a firearm. And third, someone who had a motive. They started interviewing their family and friends to see if anyone suspected someone or if the victims had any enemies, but no one could think of anyone who would dare do something like that. Kristen and James weren't troublemakers. The only problems they had were between themselves, and at the time when everything happened, their relationship was better than ever. They didn't argue anymore. They seemed to be in a really healthy relationship. And even though for a moment they considered that maybe one of them shot the other and then shot themselves, the evidence didn't support that. After the attack, Sarah moved in with her dad, who had custody of her other brother, Donnie, and she lived with them, while little Jay moved in with her grandparents. But Sarah would go visit her all the time. On March 8th, James and Kristen's funeral was held, where Sarah said these words: "I just want to say goodbye to my mom and Jamie, because I never got the chance to do it. I was used to always having them here, and I never imagined that one day they wouldn't be. James, thank you for all the life lessons and for being the best bonus dad. Your heart will finally be healed in heaven and you won't suffer anymore. Even though that brings me some comfort, your fight shouldn't have ended here. Even though there's nothing we can do to bring you back, we still have control over how we treat people today." Sarah started posting TikToks documenting her grief. In one post she wrote, "I'm so confused. Why would someone do that? Why them? Why do it? Why? I need my mom more than ever, and I know I can't have closure because nothing will bring them back. If you know anything, please help me and my family heal. She also offered a $5,000 reward for anyone who could provide information about the crime. She also reached out to true crime content creators, or creators who cover cases like the kind of content I make, asking them to please talk about her parents' case. She said it would help a lot for more people to see it, give the case more visibility, and hopefully help solve it. Months went by without any news. Her family was desperate because even though they kept asking the officers for updates, they would just say they were still investigating, but they still hadn't found any leads on the culprit. Until 4 months later, in June of this year, the sheriff's office held a press conference. It was confirmed that Sarah Grace Parker, 17 years old, had been arrested for the murder of her parents. It was also mentioned that possible accomplices who may have helped plan and carry out the crime are being investigated, as well as others who knew about the crime but didn't speak up. When news of Sarah's arrest became public, everyone was in shock. No one could believe that the girl who cried so much for her parents and demanded justice for them on social media was actually the one responsible for taking their lives. So far, the authorities have not publicly stated the reasons for her arrest. Our grandfather said that Sarah is not responsible and shouldn't be locked up, that the police just want to blame someone and rush to make the arrest. But the officers said it was just the opposite. They waited months before arresting her to make sure they gathered the necessary evidence. As I mentioned, the case is still under investigation, but this is what is known. The perpetrator had access to the house, there were no signs of forced entry, and no strange noises were heard before the gunshots. Sarah's room is next to her parents' room, but according to her, she didn't hear the attack because she was asleep. But the house they lived in was very small, and her room was right next door. And I don't know if you've ever heard the sound of a gunshot, but it's a very, very loud noise that can be heard blocks away. So it seems impossible that she didn't hear it, being right next door. If it really was Sarah who committed the crime, it was incredibly cruel, not just because of the act itself, but because she let her 5-year-old little sister find the bodies and see their parents like that. Investigators believe that Sarah's social media posts are full of guilt, and that asking people to cover the case and making videos crying was just a way to seek fame and attention. There are several theories. The main one is that Sarah decided to commit the act because her parents wouldn't let her continue her relationship with the older man. As far as is publicly known, this is the main reason why she argued with her parents. Her friends were interviewed to see if Sarah had ever spoken badly about her parents before, or if James had done something bad to her, or if her mom mistreated her, but everyone said no. Sarah always spoke well of her parents and never complained about them, except for typical teenage stuff, like, oh, they didn't let me do this, or mainly, as I mentioned, the situation with her older boyfriend. But other than that, there's no evidence that her parents mistreated her. James's sister said that she always suspected Sarah, that James had even told her that Sarah was dangerous and not the sweet girl she seemed to be. Meanwhile, Sarah's grandfather is defending her, saying that he knows his granddaughter and knows she wouldn't be capable of hurting anyone, especially not her mom, whom she loves. He also mentioned that if anyone should be blamed, it's James, who used to be in a gang and had substance abuse problems. He said that years ago, James was involved with dangerous people, and maybe that's why someone wanted to get revenge on him. That's what Sarah's grandfather said, but it hasn't been confirmed whether or not James was actually in that gang. We'll have to wait for more information and for the sentencing. Whoever is responsible, I hope the victims get justice. Please leave your opinion in the comments section. Do you think Sarah is guilty or innocent? I think that for them to charge a white teenager who is underage, there must be strong evidence against her. But we'll have to wait and see what happens in this terrible case. Don't forget to click the link to get the great deal CyberGhost VPN is offering us. This app will protect your data while you browse and give you full access to all blocked content on the internet for just $2.03 a month. Incredible! Completely risk-free, so give it a try. Link in the description. I hope you enjoyed the video. In the comments section, please let me know what you think, what you thought of the video, the case, if you'd like to see more cases like this, if you'd like to see an update once the verdict is given, and all that. I'd be happy to do it. And any comment you want to leave me is welcome. Thank you so much for all the lovely messages you always leave me. If you like the video, please give it a like. If you haven't subscribed yet, you should subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you get notified every time I upload a new video. If you like my content and want to see more of me, but not necessarily cases, I make a lot of other types of content too. I have a vlog channel where I basically share my whole life with you. I also have social media where I post more lifestyle and outfit content. It's really different, but if you want us to be close friends, you can follow me there. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching this video. I love you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.